you're looking at the first photos of a big meeting here in New York City. Mayor Eric Adams welcoming Donald Trump's incoming border czar, Tom Homan, at his residence for a highly anticipated meeting. The Democrat mayor says he and Homan have the same goal, and that is to deport illegal migrants who might have been accused or who have been accused of crimes. Watch here.
We're going to protect the rights of immigrants in the city that are hardworking, giving back to the city in a real way. We're not going to be a safe haven for those who commit repeated violent crimes. We made terrible mistakes in the past by preventing to keep our city safe from those who have committed repeated acts of violence.
And while Adams embraces cooperation, his counterpart in Chicago, Mayor Brandon Johnson, this guy, he's vowing defiance to Trump's immigration plans. But Tom Homan is warning there will be consequences if he blocks deportations.
Chicago's in trouble because your mayor sucks and your governor sucks. And we're going to start right here in Chicago, Illinois. Now, if your Chicago mayor doesn't want to help, he can step aside. But if he impedes us, if he knowingly harbors and conceals an illegal alien, I will prosecute him.
Cyrus, I was saying on Newsroom today, I feel like President Trump is giving cover to people who want to do the right thing, but who's maybe the city council or their state legislature don't want to back them up on this, in this case, deporting illegal migrants. And so this meeting today in New York, is that a good step forward? Can something happen?
You know what? I could not be prouder than Mayor Adams, because he's not the mayor that the progressive liberals want, but he's becoming the hero that the people of New York need at his own expense. Because at the end of the day, he's a police officer and he has to serve and protect. And that's really what you want. He's not going to get support from those other groups. But by this meeting, he's showing that he doesn't care whether you're illegal or you're a citizen. If you break the law, there should be consequences. And and especially if you're breaking the law and you're not a citizen, you shouldn't be here. But he doesn't want the streets unsafe. He wants a sanctuary city can be a sanctuary city. It's a safe place to be, but behave, follow the rules, follow the laws, or there'll be consequences. And that's all he's trying to do, which is amazing to me that this is such a big deal. So yeah, he's going to get cover from the president, but he's going to get support from the people. And those who vote should look at the people who have problems with keeping our streets safe. Because if you break it down, that's all it's about, is keeping our streets safe. People in Chicago, you think they're going to continue to vote for a guy who's going to obstruct keeping their city safe? Right. That works for a while, but he's going to find out the hard way.
There'll be a backlash. And Judge, do you think that we'll see some results? Like, I'm so hopeful. Well, I don't want to get my hopes up too high and be disappointed.
I think we are going to see results, because I think that Tom Homan is, with the support of the Trump administration, they are going to prosecute people for knowingly harboring illegals. That is a crime, and they're going to prosecute those crimes. What I think is interesting is that Mayor Adams forgot he was a cop for the first couple of years of his being the mayor. And I used to yell here and say, I want to see you roll your sleeves up and go to a homicide scene and be a real cop. But now that he's been indicted, maybe he's had a change of heart. What bothers me, though, is the quote is this: we want to deport those who are convicted of repeated violent crimes. First of all, as far as I'm concerned, any crime, since you're here illegally, is enough. And by the way, we've got 1.4 million deportation orders already before we even get to the violent crimes. Okay, so they've got a huge job. And you compare New York and Chicago to each other. At least in New York, Mayor Adams, to his credit, he's singing the right song. He's in the right choir now. And I'm happy about that. But what's going to happen is, if Chicago and Brandon Johnson decide, like Maureen Healey from Massachusetts and who's the other one, Newsom from California, if they want to protect illegals who are criminals, even those against whom a deportation order has been issued, you know what's going to happen? All of the illegal criminals are going to go to their states. And you know what? Good on them.
Good point.
They're going to end up with an incredible number of illegals who are going to commit violent crimes. And finally, I think it is amazing that you would want to fight the deportation orders, especially if your job, if you're so ideologically left that you forget you work for the American people.
Yeah, Jesse, if you want to follow the rule of law, if there is a deportation order, then by law, you have to deport them. It's not cruel to follow the law.
Like, I couldn't harbor at my house in New Jersey America's Most Wanted. I couldn't just have all of America's Most Wanted in my house, eating and showering all day, and the government at the gate saying, hey, Mr. Waters, we'd like to come in and grab these guys. No, and there was a standoff. I would lose that standoff pretty badly. That's what Mayor Johnson's doing. Mm-hmm. Mayor Johnson thinks he's another country, like Venezuela, like with a non-extradition treaty, where like you can't move people out. No, you're in the same country. And it's also pretty stupid because he was complaining, Texas, don't send any migrants here. Yep. And now he's like, well, don't take them away. Like, which one? Do you want them here or do you not want them here? I'm not really sure. Imagine if Rudy Giuliani, when he was mayor, was harboring Russian hackers on the Lower East Side. And the feds wanted to pick up the Russian hackers, and he was just allowing Russian hackers to work and commit crimes from a little apartment down on the Lower East. No! That would never happen, but because they're Spanish and they're gangbangers, somehow it's different. It's no different at all. Could we put up the picture of the meeting between Homan and Adams for a second? My sources inside City Hall say Homan sat down and just stared at him. He didn't say anything. It was a staring contest. Because you never want to speak first at a meeting. No, you never want to speak first at a meeting. And Adams knew that because it's a power game.
Wait a minute.
And so they just sat there, and for 45 minutes, they just stared at each other.
Okay, wait a minute. There's no one else in that room. Do you have a wiretap or a bug in there? That's illegal. Maybe there's already a legal one in there.
Harold, do you want to be the body language expert and explain to us what happened in this meeting?
I'm glad to. I listened to Mayor Adams after the meeting, and he said that it was a good meeting. He basically articulated what's been said around the table, and I think Tyrus from the outset said it well. I would differ slightly with Tyrus in just one regard. I think there are a lot of Democrats like me that want.
I'm talking about a progressive. That's like talking about the Tea Party.
Right.
So I'm talking about everyday Democrats.
So, but I think a lot of everyday Democrats. I saw there was a Democrat in the city today. I think the public advocate came out and was critical of Mayor Adams for meeting with Homan and saying he wanted to be helpful in some ways. You're going to have tension in politics. Republicans, you have it on your side. Democrats have it on our side. But I'm glad, to your point, when someone stands up and wants to lead, it's a very, very good thing. Most New Yorkers want their streets safe. Most New Yorkers, an overwhelming number of New Yorkers want safe streets, safe subways, better education outcomes. And whatever his motivation is, Judge, I don't know what I've heard him. He's certainly had a little change on this issue because I remember when the migrants were first coming to the city.
He was shaking their hands.
They all were.
I think he tried to play politician. I think he was forced to be politician. He just said, I'm a cop. I'm not doing this anymore.
I like it when politicians, particularly politicians, can say, on Monday 6 weeks ago, I was for position A, but after watching what's happened 6 months later, I've had a change of heart. And whatever that change of heart, I attribute it to him knowing and realizing that his city has been overrun. I'm part of the city that sees it over and over again. And finally, I like Tom Homan. I wish him the very best, but I'm reminded of the great Nick Saban, who I think is the greatest college football coach of all time. He said, I always analyze kids when they came into the program. Who were the workhorses and who were the show horses? Be a workhorse, Mr. Homan. You got all the power to do everything you want to do. All the tough guy stuff, just leave it out. Stop preaching to politicians. Just go in and do the job. And you're going to have guys like me, Democrats, supporting you up and down.
I'm a Harold.
That's very good.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.